Let me just check. Okay, wonderful. Okay, and speaking of innovation, we're going to have a fantastic keynote now, which is all about breakthrough therapies and building scale in pharma. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating. Please welcome to the stage from Chemo Group, Leandro Sigman. Thank you. Thank you, Leandro.
So hi, everyone. Should we wait a couple of minutes? Should we wait a couple of minutes until people sit, or we start? Yeah, I always like speaking with people seated. So welcome, everyone. You're speaking about healthcare. You know, healthcare is not the most easy way industry. There are ones more fun. So I thought a good way to start was with something that happened this week in Madrid, which has nothing to do with robotics. It happened this week in Madrid. So that's amazing, no? Those, I don't know, whatever monkeys or dogs, they seem real. But you say, hey, this guy is coming to speak about healthcare, and he's speaking about robotics. So what's robot has to do with healthcare? So let's take a look at this one. No sound. I can speak if you want, meanwhile. Actually, this is a robot called Da Vinci that makes surgical procedures, okay? And the amazing here, I mean, it's a long video, I just made a short thing, but the amazing thing here, A, is precision, and B, as you can see, there might be a doctor sitting in Mumbai making a surgical procedure to a patient in San Pablo, okay? So this changed completely the paradigm of surgery. Today we can make long-distance surgery with precision, okay? By the way, who would be prepared to make a surgery with a robot? Raise your hand. Yeah, okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. I bet you the day before, I'm not so sure if we'll do it, but I think we will. So, you know, I think that it makes me an introduction to think what's happening in pharma and how much disruption is happening in pharma. You can see what technology brings is new sector, new business. Here you have a big number of examples. And still in pharma, we see that the traditional model of pharma, which is, as you see there, you know, in the last image, you know, a medical rep going to the doctor, fighting for a prescription. Still, we're in like 50 countries selling our products. That's still what's predominant. So we haven't seen, I started as a rep in this industry more than 20 years ago. And when I see what our reps are doing, you don't see a dramatic shift in what I was doing 20 years ago versus now. So I must say, in a way, that our industry, from the commercial point of view, still didn't disrupt. And we have to think on that and think if there's going to be disruption or not. So I have a couple of reflections to try to understand if disruption will come or will not come. And I'm going to speak about three factors. If we speak about demographic, I'm sure you know that, because there's a contradiction in that industry. But you can see a lot of figures. But just think for a minute that every 10 years, as an average, we increase 1 year our expectancy of life. And this is tricky, because if you go to developed markets, this is even higher, okay? So that's creating a huge mass of people that before were not treated, that today have to be treated. On the other side, if we speak about expenditure, you can see this is the evolution of the healthcare expenditure in the last 15 years. You can see how dramatic was the shift, the increase of the healthcare expenditure, okay? So if for a minute you just take a picture, have a little bit of water, please. Can I have some water? Yeah, there is this one. So if you just take a picture for a minute and see where we're standing as pharma, on one side, a lot of new people have to be treated. On the other side, all the states are in bankruptcy. You know, all our states have a significant debt. So states, especially in Europe or in countries where state covers healthcare, and that's a must, states will not be able to cover healthcare in the future. Okay? States will not be able to cover healthcare in the future. So that means that a disruption is needed in the market, because we need ways, and it's not only, and that's against that, it's not only decreasing the price of medicine, but healthcare has to be much more efficient. And that's what happened with Uber, and that's what happened with Airbnb. The sector needs to be more efficient. Okay? So how is going to be accomplished that? That's going to be accomplished on science, based on science. And you know, it's not easy, you know, in 10 minutes, and we still have 4 minutes left to speak about how disruption will happen in that industry. So I'm just going to give a couple of thoughts. But disruption is coming, has to come in that industry. So let's speak about science, okay? There was something that changed completely the landscape of our industry, which was the sequence of the genome. If for a minute you think about combining genome sequencing with the increase of capacity to diagnose based on the improvement of imaging, this is creating a completely new landscape in the industry. And I'm going to go a little bit further on that. Think that our industry is moving from a generalized medicine to a personalized. So let me give you an example. Before there was a lady of Merck, I don't know if she still is here. If I have high cholesterol and I go to the doctor, and you have cholesterol, so there are roughly 6 or 7 drugs, pravastatin, simvastatin, atorvastatin, fluvastatin, they basically have the same effect, no difference, okay? So they're not going to treat all of us the same way, okay? But then, if you start understanding and sequencing the genome and know more about me, you might realize that I might react better to one drug rather than the other, okay? So first of all, there's a need to learn more about us, to understand which drug should be prescribed, which will have a significant impact on the healthcare cost, because if with one medicine you're able to reduce my cholesterol on a better way, that has an impact versus him that might have another impact. But even more, think for a moment, if they can know how I'm going to absorb, what percentage of the drug will stay in my body compared to his case, they're going to be able to determine what's the right dose in my case versus his case. So this completely makes a huge difference. Today we're all treated the same way, the same medicine. It's only a matter of the medical rep convincing the doctor of which drug versus the other. I'm speaking of a general way. So this is the first change, moving not as a general medicine to a personalized medicine. But thinking further, much further, think for a minute, future is not based on treating sick patients. And this is the most dramatic change in our industry. Future is based in understanding healthy patients, what type of disease they may have. There's a fantastic lady here today that presented a company that they're doing colon cancer detection, early detection, okay? If by the genome you can detect which patients have prevalence of having a cancer colon, you need to follow this patient different than another that might have prevalence of having a lung cancer, okay? And that's the future of our industry. Is this happening? It is happening. And you know, that lady is marvelous. They will be submitting a dossier, I don't know, hopefully next year or in a couple of years. So there are a lot of things happening. But even more, and that's why I think it's not a matter of startups. I think startups are playing a huge role. We're highly invested in startups. But we know, and all the corporate companies who are doing a lot of investment also in products. There's a marvelous product here called Kimbria, maybe this one. Maybe some of you are familiar with. This is the first gene therapy. It's an immunocellular therapy that consists from Novartis, that consists that people that have leukemia, they take T cells from their body, and what they do is they modify the DNA of that cell. And once the DNA of the cell is modified, the cell is reintroduced in the body of the people, and therefore those healthy cells have the capacity to reproduce themselves and attack the cancer. Okay, so is it a pill? It's not. You know, they'll extract cells from patients, they're treated and reinserted. So, you know, the traditional way that pharma thought was, you know, let's develop pills, has a dramatic change. Okay, and you see a lot of people researching, but basically this reinforced the concept of a personalized medicine and a concept of following patients that might have disease but are not sick. Let me give just one slide, I know I have to finish, which is digital health. Okay? Digital health is playing a significant role in this industry, and it's playing the role supporting the industry to be able to predict. This is a wonder, I'm sure you know that. This is today with the Apple Watch. If you just change, I don't know how you say, not the part of the watch, the one, la pulsera, I don't know, you understand me? You can make an electrocardiogram every time, and you can follow patients with cardiac disease just with your iPhone. IBM Watson, those guys, they're doing amazing in tracking data. And with IBM Watson, you can interact and therefore have data of patients with certain characteristics to predict diseases. So there's a lot of the industry, and digital health has a big role to play. And a lot of things are happening. With this slide, you just can see only in AI how many startups you find in the area working here. There are roughly this year going to be $8 billion in the Bay Area to invest in digital health. So just to finish, one slide, final slide, patient empowerment is critical here. You know, the patient empowerment plus the role of the payers, both the healthcare system and insurers, will dramatically change our industry. The relation between pharma and doctors will shift in that direction. And of course, technology will help us to predict and switch from a disease treatment to a prevention disease. And of course, you know, disruption is happening, much more that we know, but we need ideas. Always disruption comes from outsiders, so any idea that you may have is welcome. So thank you very much for your attendance.
Fantastic. Thank you, Leandro. Gracias.